G'day subscribers. Today we're going to talk about Nasco accessories, Wybrock warning signals, Smith, Sons and Reese gauges, a tickle wire, and how to hot wire your FJ. You're with Jules Knight on Jive Talking Garage. So during the week, I had bought one of these Nasco accessory books. So they've got illustrations in them and things like that. Part numbers, and they tell you going back from December 1970 what you could get for your Holden. It's really very much in the type of accessories for the era. Now the one before this, the blue and red, it actually goes back and all the way to the 48215, and also has a retrofit section whereby, for instance, FX and FJs didn't come out brand new with a power brake setup. However, in the blue and red accessories book, it certainly introduces it, but shows it all the way back as a part number to the 48215 and the FJ. So even though it didn't come out with it, it could be retrofitted with a genuine Holden part. And that's the good thing about these types of books. They give you that type of information. Now this one isn't an original. It has been reproduced. And then instead of it just being bound down the seam, they've stapled it along the spine here. But look, it's better than nothing, and it will certainly for the H, K, T and G era, it'll give you a certain 20 pages of information on there. It's also got some HD and HR items in there too, so that's not bad. Look, when I sold my FJ Ute in 1999, I sold all my books at the time, which were all original books, and yep, sure, I regret it now. So I'm sort of, recollecting things. So that's, during the course of the week. And the other thing is, I get things that I want when I see them, because I know when you've got the money and you still want them, the item's not going to be there. So buy things when you see them. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, I was alerted on Jive Talking Garage to this little auction going on eBay. Now, in the box, it's certainly got the little Wybrock details and tells you their address and, all the other bizzo about the traffic signals. However, what it is, now I haven't cleaned this up, so it's farm fresh. And it's 3 of these for when you're broken down and you're going to change a tyre and whatever else. But they swivel out at the back to actually put a platform on the road for the actual signal, particularly at night, to sit on. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to get me one of them. So I was really happy with that, but that item's pretty grubby, and that being the case, I'll clean it up with gentle kerosene and give everything a polish so it looks nice, and then I can put it in the FJ and leave it there, forget about it, whatever else. Now, SSR gauges, Smith, Sons and Reese. So we have, for instance, an amps gauge. See the SSR on the bottom of it, Smith, Sons and Reese. You saw a lot of that advertised back in the day in the Modern Motor magazine, stuff like that. So we're talking amps there. And in this one here, I'm just finding a safe little spot for it. Now this one here is oil. Now back in the day, you would have the ability, as a big truck goes past, because we're actually in the Jive Talking Garage, so that's oil pressure. Now this gauge, as you can see, would be alongside the steering column. So, it would just be there's the hole that allows the bolt to go through up into the speedo head, and then you would have this there. Now this is just one that they've made out of folded steel, nothing flash about it, whereas you could get the proper ones. So that's the one for my car that I've painted up and ready. So it's pretty good. I'm really happy with that. But that was the do-it-yourself back in the day, and I've done one of them as a do-it-yourself. So because I only had one, so I made another one so that I had the second one. So what happens is, while we're at it, I wasn't planning to do this, but these go either side of the steering column, and then your gauges go in there, whether it be oil or amps or volts or whatever. Kids these days that do bloody boost and nitrous and whatever else, so that's perfectly fine. So that's that. Now, I was helping Nathan the other day, at my eldest son, and Nathan's not terribly mechanically gifted. However, because he's got an hour each way to go to work, what he's doing is he's trying to look after his ute. So he's giving it regular oil and filter changes, trying to look after the motor, keeping the tyres, at the correct air pressure. And he had a noise the other day, and I said, I think it's brakes, mate, when he phoned me. So he actually went to Repco and bought some brake pads for his new car. And so we were having trouble that afternoon. We didn't get enough reach in pushing the caliper piston back into the caliper so that we could fit new brake pads to it. That's another story. So I went and bought him the right tool, and it didn't, and when you wound it out, it didn't have the full length. So what I actually did for him is I said, hang on a minute. So I went into the garage and came back out with a socket. Now, I put the socket inside of where the caliper is, such that when he put the tool up against it, it gave him that much extra reach to push the caliper back. So, he wasn't thinking I'll put something in there to give you extra reach to make the tool work. So I was thinking about it, I thought, I need to get him some, I'll use a socket. So sockets can be used for a lot of things like that, or for when you are replacing a universal joint, for instance. I've seen them on at Russell Tronk's garage. We use sockets to push universal joints out, and I've also seen them do it on Vice Grip Garage, so that's fine. Now, what happens, let's talk about hot wiring, given it's a quick episode, quick and dirty. What happens when you can't find your FJ keys but you need to move your FJ, or FX for that matter? They're the only two I'm dealing with because they're the ones I know. Well, what you can do is get a little wire. You can use a wire, and in the old days I've used the silver from cigarette paper, from somebody's cigarette paper, because I've never smoked, but anyway, it's done the job. So all I do is I reach under the dash, and to one side of the ignition switch and the other side of the ignition switch, I clip these on. And when I clip them on, the light comes on. And when the light comes on, I hit the starter button, and then I can move the car. And then when I'm finished, I just remove one of these alligator clips, and what that does is that breaks the circuit and turns the car off. So that's just a little way of hot wiring an FJ when you need to move it. Now the other way you can use this little alligator clip apparatus is when you have disconnected the battery. So now what you have to do is, if you look in the workshop manual, you need to tickle the regulator box, and the way to do that is we put the alligator clip on one end, and that terminal says it is, hang on, I can't quite see in this light, but anyway, so you put it on one end, and then with the ignition on, you're touching the other end. So you'll see it spark a little, but what you're doing is you are telling the electrical circuit which way to go inside the FJ. Now, okay, that's just an alligator clip on a wire, but you know, you could do it with that. That's got 2 connectors on it. This is off my Mustang. This is the ground wire off the Mustang from the going from the head to the firewall. But you know, you could do the same thing with it. Same job. So it's, you know, same dog, different eyebrows. Does the job for you. So look, that just gives you a couple of little things that we've been doing in the Jive Talking Garage. We've been getting some Wybrock things. We've been getting some Nasco things. We've talking about the gauges, and you know, I'm certainly going to fit those ones to the FJ because I like, you know, all the hanging fruit on the FJ. I think I've got 95 accessories to go on it, but it seems to be going really well. It had its first service, and it's running perfectly. The Brains Trust have really got it running sweetly, and Russell and I have been doing all the other bits and pieces for it, so it's yeah, it's going really, really well. I'm very happy with it. But anyway, that wraps up Jive Talking episode 4 today, where we've talked about the Wybrock warning signals. We've talked about the Nasco book. We've talked about the regulator box and the how to do the tickling for it. Also hot wiring the FJ, the gauges, and showing the SSR gauges as well. But anyway, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. But more importantly, enjoy your holding.